So, are you planning on Medicare covering most of your medical expenses when you retire? I would encourage you to rethink that plan. As a healthcare professional, I've learned a lot from retirees, and I have seen firsthand what medical expenses they struggle with the most. The truth is that most people underestimate how much money they will need for medical expenses when they retire. If you plan to retire in the next 10 to 20 years, keep watching for the valuable information that you need to have about medical expenses that are not covered by Medicare or other health insurance in retirement. Let's dive into the 5 out-of-pocket medical expenses nobody thinks about before retiring. First, over-the-counter medications. If you're over 40, I'm going to assume that you use more over-the-counter medications than you did when you were 20. Guess what? Your use of over-the-counter medications is likely going to increase with each decade of your life. When you are receiving annual raises from your employer, the cost of over-the-counter pain relievers, decongestants, ointments, medications for indigestion, etc. may not seem like much. But here's what happens once you retire. Your use of those items increases, and you will likely be on a fixed income that does not increase every year. Most people are truly surprised by how these inexpensive items can become a significant portion of their monthly expenses in retirement. The next out-of-pocket medical expense is medical supplies. This can include anything from specialty bandages for a wound to supplies for a medical condition that are not covered by Medicare or other health insurance. Everyone tends to assume that Medicare covers medical supplies and equipment if they are ordered by a doctor or necessary due to a medical condition. However, most people over 65 who have needed medical supplies or equipment know that Medicare coverage for wound supplies and other equipment is very limited. And in my experience, most people underestimate how expensive these items are. The third expense is durable medical equipment, or DME. As a physical therapist, I could say so much about how expensive medical equipment is, especially for retirees on a fixed income. And yet, it is often necessary for an older person to have that equipment to do their basic daily activities safely. I always encourage my clients to try and borrow the more expensive medical equipment like a walker, wheelchair, or tub bench. The reality is sometimes that is just not an option. If you are planning to do without this equipment, even when you need it, I would encourage you to rethink that plan. Not using medical equipment when you need it often results in an injury, a fall, or both, which then often results in an unplanned visit to the emergency room and sometimes another hospital stay. The fourth out-of-pocket medical expense that nobody thinks about is home care. I will put a link in the description below to the video series I did explaining what home care is and the difference between medical home care and non-medical home care. Even if you plan on never needing home care, I highly recommend watching the video series. That is, if you hope to avoid spending your last years in a nursing home. While Medicare does cover the cost of medical home health care if you qualify, Medicare does not cover non-medical home care. And that includes personal care services, homemaking services, companion services, and transportation, all very important things. Most Medicare plans do not cover these services, so people end up having to pay out of pocket to have help in their homes. The cost of non-medical home care varies widely depending on the area and the city you live in the United States. Feel free to watch my video titled Confused About Home Care Part 2 to learn more about non-medical home care and the cost of it. Here's a hint, it is more expensive than most people think. Sadly, when we need help with daily activities and have multiple health issues, a nursing home can become our only option if we cannot afford to pay for that non-medical home care. The final expense most people don't plan for is prescription medications. As a healthcare professional, I have worked with many retirees who are forced to choose between paying for their medications or paying for necessities like groceries every month. This is a situation that millions of older Americans face on a regular basis. Two mistakes people often make when planning for medication costs in retirement are: 1, assuming they won't develop a health condition that requires expensive medication, and 2, neglecting to consider that medication costs tend to increase year over year. Personally, I am planning that in 20 years, I will pay at least double the cost of what medications are today. Be sure and watch part 2 in this series on medical expenses in retirement, where I share valuable information about the most expensive out-of-pocket medical expenses in retirement that people don't plan for. While I may not be a financial planner, I have spent a lot of time with retirees in my career, and one of the most important things I've learned from them is this: however much money you think you will need in retirement for medical costs, plan on needing twice that amount. For more valuable information, please go to agingyourway.net and click on blog to read the latest blog post on this topic. If you would like help with navigating any aspect of the complex healthcare system, please go to agingyourway.net to learn more about our Aging Advisor services under the Services tab. The initial 30-minute consultation is always free. Thank you so much for your time. Please don't forget to like and subscribe below as well.